Alright, film noir and fantasy fans, it's Skid with you here on this beautiful sunny day, and we actually finally saw some sun around here, first time in 2 weeks, so let's get out and read something. So here we are, we've got the Rhylian Raven, Chapter 7. Da-dun, da-dun, dun, dun, dun. Rhohan held the broken twig in his hand while looking down the trail. He stood up slowly, wincing from the ache in his knees. He wasn't the best tracker in the world, but there seemed no doubt that Clintan had been down this trail, a trail that led straight to Cavetown. They had buried shade in the night, and come morning, Rhohan had picked up Clintan's trail. Though he had offered an equal share of Shade's holdings, the others had elected to stay back. It was the way of mercenaries. He had bid them good fortune and departed. He had been initially slow on foot, but the trail had passed through a village a few miles down the way. Rhohan had been able to purchase an old mare there. The horse was saddle-shy and slow, but it was faster than walking. The villagers had also confirmed Clintan had passed by. So far, so good. Now, 2 days later, Rhohan was keeping pace about a day or so behind, even with his slow horse. Clintan was neither in a hurry nor mindful of concealing his trail. If Rhohan were to guess, he would say that the man he was tracking seemed distracted. Walking beside his horse, Rhohan savored the thought of sleeping comfortably in a bed that night. Cavetown was only a few miles away, and he would be there before dark. The trail joined a road which was busy with travelers. Cavetown always had a lot of adventurers arriving to seek their fortune, but not nearly as many left. Rhohan had spent his share of time in the caves. To be sure, there were fortunes to be made, but they came at a steep cost. Rhohan preferred his adventures to be a little less risky these days. Coming into town, Rhohan sold the horse and got lodging at Grungy's Quality Respite. After cleaning up from the trail and having a good meal, he decided to have a drink and relax. He would begin looking around for Clintan tomorrow. For now, an ale sounded like just the thing. Flynn's Tavern hadn't changed at all since the last time he had been there. The din of conversation filled the air along with the smoke of countless pipes. Tales of exploits and harrowing adventures were common here, along with their colorful tellers. Rhohan moved towards the bar to get his ale and stopped in his tracks. Sitting right there at the bar, nursing his drink, was Clintan. Rhohan was not prepared to confront the grizzled warrior at this moment. He had been looking forward to resting up first after his long time in the wilderness. But there was Clintan, right here, right now. Rhohan checked that his sword moved freely in its scabbard and his dagger in its sheath. Then he stepped up to the fighter. "I would have words, Clintan," Rhohan said loud enough to be heard over the noise. Everyone nearby turned to look at him and then moved away from the two, realizing a fight may be coming. Rhohan noted the ogre bouncer in the corner looking their way and kept his hands away from his weapons. "Leave me alone," Clintan replied, slurring slightly. It was clear he had been drinking for a while, and on closer inspection, he was unkempt and disheveled. "You killed one of my companions for no reason. I will have an accounting, now." Clintan turned his head to face Rhohan and squinted. "I had a reason. It's not a very good one, it turns out," he muttered. He took another pull of his ale and belched. "The Raven?" Rhohan asked. At this, Clintan turned sharply and eyed Rhohan up and down. "What do you know of it?" I know what Shade told me before he died of the gut wound you gave him. I know that he wanted no part of the Raven and left it to you and Levan. I know that you had no cause to murder him. Well, you don't know everything, do you? Clintan turned back to his ale. All is okay here. An enormous ogre bouncer had walked over. You no make trouble, Callahan. No, you either. The bouncer pointed at Clintan and Rhohan respectively. You want fight, you go outside, Kay. Rhohan raised his hands in supplication, and Clintan took another drink. The bouncer walked away slowly, eyeing both of them. Callahan? Rhohan asked. Yeah, that's what folks used to call me back when I was a ranger. Old Grimtooth there still remembers, I guess. Well, whatever name you go by, Shade was a fellow merc. His dying request to me was to find out why you killed him. I'll have the answer, then if need be, your life. You think you have what it takes? Clintan said, turning to face Rhohan, but remaining on his stool. I honestly don't know. I know Shade didn't deserve to die like that. Deserving rarely has anything to do with it. I'm tired and I'm drunk. But I'll indulge you with a story. You want a piece of me after that, then get in line. Rhohan pondered, then sat down on one of the vacated stools near Clintan, keeping an eye warily on the warrior ranger. I'll have an ale, he said to the bartender, who looked them over then shrugged. Swell, Clintan slurred. Levan was smart and deadly, but had the redeeming quality of being very self-interested. This made him pragmatic. As we stood looking over each other in that God's-forsaken room in the inn, he realized, as did I, that if we fought over the Raven, it was going to be close, and the winner was likely going to be in rough shape. So we just looked warily at each other as the thief took off through the window. We could just leave it here, Levan offered. We could, but I think someone will find it, and that someone could be a powerful wizard, and maybe come looking for us to tie up loose ends. I don't even care about the money so much. Pawning something like that will be difficult at best and dangerous at worst. I just want to get rid of it. I'm inclined to agree, but what then? Toss it into the sea? We could take it back to that little mage in Cave Town, the one who brokered the deal in the first place. He's the only one who knows about us in connection with Sorrows. Maybe we could get rid of it that way and make a little gold in the process. Fair enough. Who carries it? You can if you like. I was actually thinking you could. Swell. I paused and looked at the small statue lying on the floor next to Eli's bloody corpse. Taking a small bag from my pack, I used my sword to flick the statue into the bag, being careful not to touch it. Tightening the drawstring on the bag, I placed it in my pack. Now let's get out of here, I said. I was wary of Levan during the journey back to Cave Town, but like I say, he was pragmatic. He didn't see any percentage in pawning the Raven by himself anywhere other than Cave Town, and two were safer than one on the trail. After a few weeks, we found ourselves back at the Mage Guild in Cave Town, asking for Claris. Remember us? Levan said to Claris as he met us on the front steps. Oh yes. You were the gentleman who took the commission from Sorrows. What brings you back here? Did you find who Sorrows was looking for? And weren't there 3 in your party? Our third member died, I replied, when we found what Sorrows was looking for. We also found who he was looking for, but now they're all dead. Dead? What do you mean dead? He means dead, as in not breathing, Levan said. Sorrows and the 2 other wizards. No, it's not possible. The little mage sat down on the steps in shock. Sorrows was a very powerful wizard. How did he die? We don't know, I said. When we got there, he was dead already. And it really doesn't matter. What does matter is that this is what he was looking for. I handed the bag with the raven in it to Claris. Carefully, he looked in the bag, then made a warding spell as he gasped. It's the Rhylian Raven. Whatever you say, Chief, Levan said. We were thinking you might want to buy it, and keep your mouth shut about how you got it. Everybody connected to this thing has a habit of dying. Well, I mean, it's priceless. The guild would be happy to. Here he paused for a moment. Wait a minute, you're sure this is the exact artifact Soros was seeking? Oh yes, Levan answered. 3 wizards died because of that thing. Well, that's very troubling, Claris said, because it appears to be completely inert. Inert? I asked. As in not working, not magical, not worth anything. Levan and I looked at each other. All that effort coming back here for nothing. Levan grabbed the small wizard by the front of his robes and barked, You wouldn't be lying to us, would you? No, the little wizard said. Here, feel it yourself. He picked it out of the bag with his hand and thrust it at Levan. Levan recoiled, but not before the raven touched his hand. When nothing happened, he slowly reached out and took hold of the raven. It's just a simple statue, Claris continued. It's either an exact non-magical copy of the Rhylian Raven, or something has happened to the raven itself to render it useless. Either way, it isn't worth anything to us. Tex and Edna might give you something for it as a piece of art. God's damn it, Levan cursed. Putting his hands on his hips, he looked at me, shaking his head. Then he tossed the raven at me and said, Here, pal, keep this as a souvenir. I'm done with this entire affair. With that, he strode off. I looked at the tiny statue in my hand. It wasn't even carved that nicely, and wouldn't be worth anything, even as a trinket. Sighing, I took a couple of gold pieces out of my pocket. Here, I said, giving them to Claris. Since this isn't the magical raven one way or the other, I want you to forget the whole thing. Forget about us, forget about the raven, forget about Soros, forget everything. Even if it is useless, blood got spilled over it, and I don't want any vengeful wizards tracking me down. We didn't have anything to do with any of them dying. Well, mostly. It doesn't matter. Are you going to keep your mouth shut? Fine, said Claris. I'd forgotten about the whole thing until today. I can forget about it again. It's unbelievable to think that Soros is dead, though. One would think we would have felt some kind of emanation in the... Well, never mind. Is there anything else? No. Thanks. Good day. I was going to get rid of the raven, but I never seemed to get around to it. That little statue ended up perched in my room as a reminder to stay away from wizard affairs, Clintan said, quaffing the rest of his ale and motioning the barkeep for another. Didn't really think anything of it. I hooked up with a pretty decent party and did a little work in the caves. Things were actually working out swell. We were hauling up good coin, and the crew were smarter than they were brave. Then one day, a few years later, Levan looks me up at the inn. What did he want? Rhohan asked. He wanted to know if I still had the raven. Why? Because someone had come looking for it.